to this program. This is the second program in a series of 4 programs aimed at aiding students to better prepare for Kcse English Paper 2. In this program, we examine Kcse English Paper 2, Question 2. One or two issues are of significance as we begin to discuss this question. The issue of language and vocabulary is worth examining at this juncture. In English Paper 2, a good command of language and vocabulary is necessary if one is to do well. Question 2 is a question where candidates are expected to have read and understood the set books. In many of the set books, a certain level of command of language is of essence. Students will also be examined on vocabulary, just like it happens in other comprehension questions. And therefore, when reading the set text, candidates had better be advised that they need to understand each and every word, each and every phrase in the book, because it is not strange to find a question asking them to explain the meaning of a particular word or the meaning of a particular phrase. It is important for them to remember that these meanings must be in the context of the set book. Command of language is also necessary because understanding of the text is impeded where a student has poor command of the language. A story is told of a man who appears at a petrol station in Kisumu. This man would like his Mercedes-Benz to be filled to the brim. This is what he said to the petrol station attendant. Madam, adwaro petrol mar super full tank. The petrol station attendant is not amused. She says, please, sir, would you mind speaking in English? The man looks at the lady and smiles and says, all right, I will speak in English. And he proceeds to say this, Madam, proceed to fill the receptacle of my automobile with the highest octane rating of that combustible fluid from your subterranean reservoir. Our petrol station attendant is confused because she cannot get a single word, yet those are English words. And she says, please, sir, speak in Kiswahili. That goes to illustrate the extent to which vocabulary can impede understanding. Learners must strive to be comfortable in the English language. This is not a one-day affair. We wish to ask that schools create an environment that promotes acquisition of vocabulary and acquisition of the English language. Language policies could be one way out of this, so that students are given opportunities to practice using English. Group activities encourage easier learning of the language. The reason is, for one to acquire language, there must be a climate of low anxiety. But at the same time, there must be available in the environment a source of what has been called comprehensible input. And therefore, all schools must choose activities and a climate that provide an atmosphere of comprehensible input for learners for ease of acquisition of the language. Learners should try to learn a language in the usual sense. They should try and involve themselves in these activities that allow for meaningful communication. That way, they will acquire language much more easily. Straight away, I go to a few tips that can aid a Kcse candidate in dealing with question 2 of paper 2. Tip number 1, text mastery. All candidates must strive to have a thorough mastery of the said text. Going by the trends, one of these texts has been a play and another has been a novel. Each of these has its own techniques and styles, and therefore a mastery of these techniques and styles can aid in understanding. It goes without saying that vocabulary too must be studied and understood. Mastery of the text would require that one has a thorough knowledge of the plot, the characters, themes, and stylistic devices. The second tip, students must analyze the text for themes, and in presenting these themes as answers to the questions, one would simply be required to identify the theme, so get a word or a phrase that identifies the theme. For example, marriage, and then illustrate. An illustration would be a quote or a statement of evidence of existence of this theme in the text. When it comes to stylistic devices, the same will prevail. Identify a style, for instance, irony, and illustrate it by quoting from the text or explaining an instance where irony has been employed. It might also be necessary for one to be able to explain the effect or contribution of the stylistic device to the delivery of the message in the text. Character traits too must be studied. A word to identify the character trait, for example, hardworking, lazy, greedy, patient, optimistic, and then a quote or an explanation as evidence of the existence of this character trait. It will also help if a candidate can talk about the role of a character. One thing to remember though is that one should use an adjective when describing a character trait, so that we do not say Peter is a coward when analyzing character. We should say Peter is cowardly. We should also remember that character traits are about behavior and personality, and therefore one should not give physical attributes as aspects of character. Don't, for instance, say Peter is tall. Don't say Peter is fat. Those are not character traits. Neither should you say Peter is well educated. Those are not aspects of character. You should not even say Peter is a firstborn. The next tip is about two common questions, common in question 2 and even in question 1. And these are related questions on summary writing and note making. I will start with summary writing. When you are writing a summary, you are presenting information in a brief manner, picking out just the key idea. And therefore, the following rules may help one in writing a good summary. Give only the key points. Ignore examples and illustrations. Secondly, do not give a title to your summary. Number 3, write in continuous prose. That means one complete sentence after another. You may use connectors to join your sentences. Note that these sentences should be condensed into one paragraph that is free of expression errors. By expression errors, I mean let's not have spelling mistakes. Let us not have grammatical rules broken. And let's not have errors of punctuation. Summaries require that a certain word limit be obeyed. And therefore, candidates should remember that if they are told to write a summary of not more than, say, 30 words, then they ought to stick to that. This word limit sometimes varies. You may be asked to use not more than 30 words, or you may be told in about 30 words. And if told in about 30 words, then about suggests that the limit is not exact, and you may exceed it by a few words, say about 5 words. Rules for note making. When making notes, number 1, do not write in continuous prose. 2, number your points. You may use bullets. You may use dots and any other form of numbering. You may use numbers 1, 2, 3. You may use Roman numbers, Roman 1, Roman 2, Roman 3. Or you may choose to use bullets. You may hyphenate. You may use dashes. You may use bullets, etc. Notes need not be in complete sentences, meaning incomplete sentences will be all right. Strict observation of expression. No penalties are expected for expression errors unless the error affects the meaning. There is no word count, word limit. No titles are required for notes.